that statement was? Repeat it over and over again. And everyone did, or each man did that which was what? Right in his own eyes. Now, where do we have the standard? Where is the standard of our behavior and what is right and wrong? In the Word of God. All right. Now, in the book of Deuteronomy, Deuteronomy means what?
Second law.
Deuteros nomos, the second law. Okay. The second law in chapter 30 and verses 19 and 20. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 19 and 20. Are you over there, Brother Art?
Not yet.
Right near? Deuteronomy 30, chapter 19 and 20. Chapter 30, verses 19 and 20. I'll get it right. I don't know what's wrong with me this morning. Deuteronomy. All right. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. All right. Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verses 19 and 20. All right.
I call heaven and earth to...
Are you over there now?
Yeah.
All right.
I call heaven and earth to witness against you today, that I have set before you life and death.
Okay, hold on right there. Now I call heaven and earth to witness against you today, that I have set before you what?
Life and death.
Life and death. All right, life and death. That's a choice, isn't it? What did Adam choose in the garden? Death. He had life. He had the tree of life. He had the tree of life there. And he could have had that, but what did he do? He chose thanatos. He chose death. Death. Separation from God. All right, Brother Art, go on a little further now.
And the blessing and the curse.
All right, a blessing. You can get blessed or you can get cursed. Which one you want? Make your choice now. What he said. Go ahead, Brother Art.
So choose life in order that you may live and your descendants.
All right, 20.
By the living of the Lord God, by obeying His voice, and by holding fast to Him, for this is your life, and the length of your days, that you may live in the land which the Lord swore to your father Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to give them.
All right, now this is the whole story right here. This is the repetition. And in the book of Judges, it keeps saying what?
People do things right now.
They did what was right in their own eyes, and not only that, they just kept on sinning. They kept on choosing death. They kept on choosing death. Now we have a man here that is, his name is Samson. Now what does Samson mean? Remember what his name means?
Yeah, the one who bears or something?
Remember, a lot of the commentaries say that he was like the sun.
Like the sun, yeah.
All right.
That's not.
All right. Like the sun. All right. But his name comes from this Hebrew word. That Hebrew word. And the name of God, one of the titles of God is... All right. What does that mean, El Shaddai?
Almighty or powerful?
Huh?
The powerful?
What?
The powerful one or something?
All right. All-powerful one. So look at his name now, Samson. Think about it again. The destroyer. The all-powerful one. The mighty one. All right? Now we talked about last week. Again, what do you think he looks like? What do you think Samson looks like? 8 foot tall?
Yeah,
or Danny DeVito?
Danny DeVito. Well, we have to think he's 8 foot tall, but he's really Danny DeVito, right?
Huh?
He has the appearance, like, not seeing him, he's really big, but... Like
I don't know. We don't know. Brother Mensick, what do you think about that?
I don't think it's given in the scripture.
You what?
I don't think it's given.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say what he's like. Could he have been just an average-looking guy? Yeah. An average-looking guy. I remember I was real skinny when I was young, very, very thin. I was starving to death. Basically, that's why I was thin. And anyway, when I was in high school, but I was very strong. And people would really, when I was doing bench presses and stuff like that, come over here, this guy had 139 pounds, he's bench pressing 200 pounds, you know. And strong, skinny, but strong. Have you ever seen a skinny, strong person? Yeah, maybe that's what he was like. Who knows? Maybe he was 6'8". Maybe he was 5'1". Who knows? But what caused Samson to have his great strength?
Spirit of the Lord.
The Ruah, Jehovah, came upon him. Brother Vincent.
Now, I don't see, in fact, I look at that maybe a totally different way. God, we know that it was the Spirit of God that was giving him the power.
Mhm.
And if you look how God works, God does not take the strong, he takes the weak to make them, to
Yeah.
show his glory. Obviously this man did mighty feats. I mean, things that are out of today we couldn't do because God was with him.
Not even the strongest man.
And I think because of that, my suspicion is that he was very normal.
That's
Because God delights in taking the weak and show them strong. And you know that in Scripture, that principle. So I wonder if that's part of the issue.
Yeah.
The question, instead of him being a very strong and physically, man, because even the name itself projects the spirit onto the man.
Yeah. Shod, all right, is the root of that term according to the rabbis now. All right, according to the rabbis. I do a lot of rabbinical reading, a lot of Hebrew and Jewish history. When you're working with the Old Testament, you better do it to find out what's going on there. All right, sometimes they made mistakes. I'm going to translate the book of Genesis pretty soon, the Lord willing, and lets me live that long. And we're going to translate the book of Genesis. We're not going to interpret it. We're going to translate it, and you're going to see a whole lot of difference between translation and interpretation. We got a lot of interpretation, but very little translation. All right. So now let's go to the 15th chapter of the book of Judges. Judges chapter 15. All right. Now we have in chapter 14, Samson got married. He married himself a what? A blonde.
Bunch of trouble.
A what?
A bunch of trouble.
A bunch of trouble. All right. But it was from the Lord. The Lord evidently attracted him to this woman. It was of the Lord. And he wanted her, he desired her, and he married her. Okay? And we see, we quoted Romans 8:28. For what does that Romans 28 say? 28 verse 8, or 8 and 28 say?
God causes
All things work. All things work.
For the good of them that are the called according to his purpose. All right. And that's exactly what happened here in Samson's life. 15 and verse 1. Dr. Mensick, you over there, you got the Bible open?
It came to pass within a while after, in the time of the wheat harvest, that Samson visited his wife with a kid. And he said, I will go into my wife into the chamber. But her father would not suffer him to go in.
All right. Now that's a pitiful situation here. Now what happened to Samson? Now Samson got married over here, and his best men at the wedding, or the bride's escort, or what do you want to call it? What do you call that? The bride's, not the groom's men, or the groom's escort. All right. All of his escorts were Philistines. All right. They from the wrong side, didn't have anybody from his side of the family at all. And the best man of the wedding was a Philistine. And then in verse 20 of the 14th chapter, go back up there, Brother Brett, and see what it says up there.
Okay, what verse is it again, sorry, Jim?
Number 20, chapter number 14, right above where we were reading. Let's see what
Okay.
happened here to poor old Samson. See what happened to Samson.
But Samson's wife was given to a companion whom he had used as a friend.
Oh, Samson's wife was given to the best man. His father-in-law did this to him. Now, I'm going to tell you something. He'd already paid for her. The price was already met. He paid for her, and he accused her of being unfaithful. All right, with these people. Now, the father-in-law gives her to the best man instead of Samson, who bought and paid for her. Now, what the Bible is saying to you here is that these people here did not keep their word. They had no respect for Jewish people at all. Well, they wouldn't have done this to each other, they'd have got killed. If somebody had done this, the daddy and the mama would be taken out and stoned. As simple as that. But it didn't happen. They just did this, and they did this to Samson because they have no respect for the Jewish people at all, period. No respect for covenants. All right, number 2. Number 2. Now, Samson goes over here, verse number 2. Samson goes over and wants to be with his wife. He's over his mad spell now, and he's going to go and well, first of all, he slept with her at least 7 times. Did you know that? The wedding feast. The wedding feast. All right. The wedding feast. When this 7-year tribulation period up in heaven up here in New Jerusalem is going to be the wedding feast of the bride and her husband when the Lord is joined to His bride. Okay. And during that period of time, they didn't. Back in biblical days, they didn't have weddings like we have today. They would go out and call the bride from her home. They would take her to the groom's house, and they would have a wedding feast out there. And for 7 days, he would take her into what they call the bridal chamber, and they would consummate their marriage for 7 days. And people would be around out here having lots of food and drink, or whatever. You know, they would be having a feast. And that's what happened over here with Samson for a whole week. That was his wife. Now, she was bawling and squalling and squirting tears all the time because her relationship had made her miserable. Remember when they were trying to get her to find out what this riddle was about? And finally, he broke down and told her, and then she tells the enemy, and then he has to go pay up the pieces of clothing, the 30 pieces of clothing and everything that he was supposed to give them. Now he's over his mad spell. He's going back to get his bride. And his bride, by these unfaithful people, has been given to the best man at the wedding, a Philistine. All right? Verse number 2, Brother Art.
His father said, I really thought that you hated her intently, so I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister more beautiful than she? Please let her be yours instead.
Oh, this sounds like what happened to Jacob, doesn't it? Just a little bit. But he did get him. He lost his wife. The man took his wife from him and gave her to another man. Now, for sure, she has been a harlot because she has been given to some other man. So, Samson, now remember why did he marry this woman in the first place?
Yeah.
Why?
He liked her a lot. She was good looking.
Why did he marry her? What did the Lord say?
The Lord did it to provoke the Philistines.
So that he would provoke a conflict between Samson and the Philistines. All right. Verse number 3, Sister Andino. Judges 15 and verse number 3.
I was looking at chapter 14 and
Oh,
verse
oh.
4 where you say that it was of the Lord.
Oh, it was of the Lord, yes. Okay. Now 15 and verse 3. Now this is a very important one. Put an asterisk down here by this, because this is the whole story right here. This is why the marriage took place.
And Samson said to them, this time I shall be blameless regarding the Philistines if I harm them.
All right, so now what's going to happen, Brother Jim? Verse number 4.
Then he went out and caught 300 foxes. He tied their tails together in pairs, and he fastened a torch to each pair of tails.
All right, now basically in Hebrew this says jackals. All right, this says jackals. He went out, and by the way, he didn't run out there and run them down. What does it say in Hebrew? What does it say? It says he trapped them. He trapped 300 foxes. All right? Now, he didn't run out there and run these 300 foxes down. He trapped the foxes, or jackals, okay?
You think that he did that, though. You think he did that.
Yeah, but the way it's stated here. But in Hebrew, remember I told you, there's a difference between interpretation and translation, okay? There's a whole lot of difference. Now, it says in Hebrew that he trapped 300 jackals, okay? Then it says And he took torches or some type of, like Molotov cocktails, he tied these things to their tails. And he put one torch in the middle of the two tails. And verse number 5 for Dr. Mincy, what does it say there now?
And when he had set the brands on fire, he let them go into the standing corn of the Philistines.
All right.
He burnt up both the shocks and also the standing corn with the vineyards and olives.
All right, now we got a problem here in King Jim, don't we? What's the problem? We'll look at this one too. What's the problem over there? Where did corn come from? Where did corn come from?
The ground?
America.
Oh, America.
They didn't have any corn over there. So that sets a problem with the King James, doesn't it? By the time King James was translated in what year? 1611. All right. By 1611, there was corn in Europe. Okay? And so they said, well, this had to be corn. Well, they were translating this. Well, they didn't have any corn back then. This was wheat or barley fields. Okay, that's what they were, wheat or barley fields. By
Why
the
did
way,
they fix that?
huh?
How come they didn't fix it?
I guess they still don't know any better, do
I guess
they?
not.
It's still arid. Well, they still hadn't got that fixed yet. All right. He had set the fire to the torches to release the foxes into the standing grain. That's what it says in King James, or in the New American Standard, in the standing grain. And the Philistines, thus burning up the shocks of the standing grain. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When wheat and barley is ready to harvest, it's kind of, we got a fireman here. Volatile. It's very volatile. It's like gasoline out there in the fields. And it's ready to be harvested, and it is dry. And they go out there and they cut it off and they stand it in what? In shock. All right, and then they take this and they would thresh it and all that. All right, so now evidently the wheat fields have already been harvested and they're standing in shocks. All right.
So how do you burn it down then?
How did he burn it down?
Yeah.
He sent the foxes out there. Now, there's stubble in the fields, isn't there? Remember when after they harvested wheat fields here in the San Joaquin Valley, every year you'd see great big fires out here. All you have to do is go to the edge of that thing and to set it like that, wherever the wind's blowing from, and I mean it's going to be gone and nothing flat. That's what happened here. He burned the fields up with all of their food in it. All right? And all of their vineyards and all of their olive trees. The whole shooting match. Now remember, this is the harvest time, okay? All of this is burning up. Verse number 6. Verse number 6. Brother Floyd, are you there?
Yeah.
Or they got you sidetracked?
Then the Philistines said, "Who has done this?" And they said, "Samson, the son-in-law of Timonite, because he has taken his wife and given her to his companion." And the Philistines came up and burned her and her father with fire.
All right, now here we have these cruel people here again. We talked about these guys last week, remember? Cruel people. Remember what they told they were going to do to this girl if she didn't get the formula to the riddle from the Samson? What were they going to do to her? They were going to go around, surround her house, and set the house on fire and burn her and her family up. That's what they told her they were going to do if she didn't get the riddle from Samson. She was afraid, because these are cruel people. Now, what did they do to her family? They murdered her, and they burned her up. A horrible death burning is a horrible death. All right. They burned her and her family with death. Now, let's see what happened on here any further. Brother David, ask.
Samson said to them, "Since you will do a thing like this, I will surely take revenge on you, and after that I will cease."
All right, he said, now, since you've acted like this, now, first of all, he went out there and he set the fields on fire with these Philistines, because these are ungodly people anyway. They're worshiping many gods, all kinds of stuff. And the Lord knew that all the way back in the days of Noah, didn't he? Huh? Remember what he told Noah over here when he cursed Canaan? Who are these Philistines? They are Canaanites, aren't they?
Lowlanders.
Huh? Yeah.
They're sons of,
Well, Canaanite means lowlanders. And the Hebrew rabbis used to say these people lived in a low land and they were low lives. They were a low character. They were very base human beings. Base means what?
Immoral.
Immoral. Base people. These were a very base bunch of individuals here. And the Lord knew back there when he spoke to Noah and when he cursed the line of Canaan, he knew what they would be like then. Because God is what?
omniscient.
Omniscient. So he knows this stuff. He knew what would happen and everything. And then he told them over here in Deuteronomy, remember what he says? Moses said to them, or Joshua said to them, or Moses did, I called heaven and earth to witness against you today, and I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. So choose life in order that you may live, and you and your descendants. And he told them that they could live long in the land if they followed his word. But they had chosen many, many times not to. And that's where we are now. All right. Terrible bunch of people. He said, after I take revenge, then I'm going to quit. And verse number 8. Dr. John.
So he attacked them hip and thigh with a great slaughter. Then he went down and dwelt in the cleft of the rock of Itham.
All right. He said he struck them, it says in King James, hip and thigh. What in the world does that mean?
Hip and thigh.
Yeah, that's an old term, people. That's an old. Let's bring it into modern English now. Okay? Let's see what that means. And he struck them, and it says in verse number 8, Brother Art, what's it say there in the New American Standard? Ruthlessly. Just like they were ruthless, so he treated them like that.
Listen to
All
my
right? What do you do with the gangs and stuff? How do you control gangs? Get rough with them. What does the Bible say back? An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. That works, people. God knew it worked a long time ago. If you want to control violence, you have to get real violent with it. That's the way you do it. That's the formula. All right. If you don't do that, you've got problems.
You don't give them a timeout?
No, you don't give them no time out. You have no round. No rules of the Marquis de Sade, or whatever you want to call it. Rules of whatever. Just do it. Get with it. What did God say to do to these people in the first place? Kill them all. They're bad news. They're contamination in the land. Get them out of my land. And did they do it? No. All right. So it says that he struck them ruthlessly with a great slaughter, and he went down and lived in the cleft of the rock at Etam. All right?
Where is Etam?
All right. What?
Where is Etam?
Etam? I don't know right now. But it's going to tell you a little bit more about it. I think it is someplace where near Hebron, if I remember right. Let's go on verse number 9 now. Dr. Vincent.
Then the Philistines went up and pitched in Judah and spread themselves in Lehi.
All right. Lehi means what?
Lehi?
Lehi. That's the jawbone. All right. Now it was called that later on.
The jawbone?
We're going to find out why it was called Lehi later on. Verse number 10. Verse number 10. I don't know exactly what. Okay, Brother Brett, just get with it there.
And the men of Judah said, why are ye come up against us? And they answered, to bind Samson are we come up to do him as he hath done to us.
All right. They've come up to bind Samson. These are the men of Judah. These are his own people. Now these ungodly buzzards, this bunch of Jews here now, they're afraid of the masters. They're afraid of the big shots. So they're going to give in to them and get the man that is, now he's the judge, isn't he? Samson's the judge. He's supposed to be the man of God. They know that the spirit of Jehovah has come upon him. Ruach, Jehovah has come upon him. That's what's making him powerful and able to do all these things. He didn't do it of his own. Brother Brett.
You know, how come he doesn't talk about him being a Nazarite?
What?
Or Nazarite or something like that?
He was a Nazarite.
Can we do it soon?
Samson was a Nazarite. All right, and a Nazarite was a look-alike priest, except he had long hair. You knew exactly who he was. Whenever you saw him, you knew that this was a Nazarite because he had long hair. This was a man set aside and was holy unto the Lord. Okay? Verse number 11. All right? Verse number 11. David Ash.
Then 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Edom and said to Samson, do you know what the Philistines rule over us? Do you know that the Philistines rule over us? What is this you have done to us? And he said to them, as they did to me, so have I done to them.
Eye for an eye and tooth for tooth. The law. The law. That's exactly what he did. Number 12 now. Now we're going to find out in a few moments exactly where this place is. Okay? Verse number 12. Brother Jim.
But the men of Judah told him, we have come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. All right, Samson said, but promise that you won't kill me yourselves.
All right, now, he could have whipped all of them, couldn't he? The Spirit of the Lord came upon him.
But you God's
He
people.
could have. Sure could. Brother David.
So they said to him, no, but we will bind you fast and give you into their hands. Yet surely we will not kill you. Then they bound him with 2 new ropes and brought him up from the rock.
All right, and brought him up from the rock pile. All right, verse number 14. Let's look at this one. Verse number 14, Dr. John.
When he came to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting against him. Then the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him.
Okay, Ruah Jehovah here, the Spirit of the Lord, okay?
And the ropes that were on his arms became like flax. Then it burned with fire, and his bonds broke loose from his hands.
All right, now let's see here what in the world happens now. Verse number 15.
Roy.
George.
Where we are.
15,
Go ahead, Brother
15.
Lloyd.
And he found a fresh jawbone of an ass and put out his hand and seized it. And with it he slew 1,000 men.
Boy, he killed 1,000 men with the jawbone of this donkey. All right, 1,000 men he slew with this very elementary fighting tool. All right?
That ain't easy no matter who you are.
What?
So that ain't easy no matter who you are.
Yeah. It don't make any difference. He must have been a whirling fighting machine, huh? Verse number 16 now. Verse number 16. Let's look at this. All right. Dr. Mincy.
And Samson said, with the jawbone of an ass, heaps upon heaps. With the jawbone of an ass have I slain 1,000 men.
All right, now he makes another poem here, doesn't he? He was a poet. All right, he was not only a strong man, he was a poet. He said that Samson said, with the jawbone of a donkey, heaps upon heaps, with the jawbone of a donkey, I have killed 1,000 men. All right? Now in verse number 17, let's see what in the world happened here. Verse number 17, Brother David here.
And it came about when he had finished speaking that he threw the jawbone from his hand, and he named that place Ramah Lehi.
All right, Ramah Lehi. All right? The place of the jawbone is what it's called. The place of the jawbone.
What does Ramoth mean? The place of?
Yeah, the place of the jawbone. Ramah, the place of the jawbone. All right? Number 18. Number 18. Kathy, you want to read that? No? David, you want to read that one for me?
Then he became very thirsty, so he cried out to the Lord and said, you have given this great deliverance by the hand of your servant, and now shall I die of thirst and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised?
All right, go on and read a little further.
So God split the hollow place, that is in Lehi, and water came out, and he drank, and his spirit returned, and he revived. Therefore he called its name El Hakor, which is in Lehi to this day.
All right. All right, now here we are in this place here. All right. Now it says God split the hollow place that is in Lehi. Now there are two interpretations of this. Okay? What would you think the interpretations are? All right. What does this sound like? Brother Minsick, would you read that in verse number 19 in King James?
But God clave the hollow place that was in the jaw, and there came water thereof.
Okay, now the two interpretations are, one of the rabbinical interpretations where they got that. Okay, a lot of times from the rabbinical interpretations, they translated the King James Version. Sometimes they were right and sometimes they were wrong. Okay? Now it says in the rabbinical interpretation, the piece of jaw that he threw on the ground, a tooth fell out of it. And water flowed. Now a donkey is an unclean animal, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right? But out of this unclean animal and this jawbone that he had grabbed, first of all, he wasn't even supposed to touch that as a Nazarite. All right? But he used that as a tool to kill these people with. But some of the rabbis say that right out of the socket where that tooth was, where it fell out of that jawbone, water flowed out of that. All right? Water flowed out of that. Now another interpretation is there in this place of the rocks that there was a split in the hillside, and this place is called the place of the jawbone, and there was a spring there for many, many years to come. That's the one that I believe that really is correct. All right?
Makes more sense.
It makes more sense than than water flowing out of the jawbone. Either way, it's a miracle. It doesn't matter, it's a miracle, either way. I tell you what, it's a miracle that he slew 1,000 men with a jawbone. And these are fighting men. They had come here, I'm sure, with swords and spears, and probably bows and arrows.
Yeah, but if this stuff was written, then God helped him.
Well, God did it.
Right.
God did it. You know, as we study walking the Bible here pretty soon, we're going to show that. When you come to every place where the Lord parted the sea there, whether it was the Reed Sea or the Dead Sea or the Red Sea or whatever it was, that he parted there, and when the armies of Pharaoh went in there, they all got drowned. They were all drowned, regardless. If it was out there in a shallow area or in a deep area, for one thing, when God parted the waters, that's a miracle, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You accept that as a miracle, all right? When God drowned them, that was another miracle to God, whether he drowned them in deep water or shallow water, regardless, they were drowned, period.
Bigger miracle if he drowned them in 6 inches of water.
That's right.
6 feet.
Yeah. All right. It doesn't matter. And when there was manna in the wilderness, wasn't there? There was a natural manna in the wilderness. We're going to see that on this thing also. There's a natural manna there to this day. But I'm going to tell you something. God fed millions of people out there with manna, and that was a miracle. These tamarisk trees produce a little bit of manna, but God produced a lot of manna. And then God brought the quail in. These were like a partridge. They were very large quail type thing. They flew into camp, and he fed all of them. And they said, well, at certain times of the year that happens. But God drove them exactly into the camp right then. That's a miracle for the bread.
The manna, is that like the symbolism for the New Testament or for Jesus?
What?
Because the bread of life.
Yeah, he is the bread of life.
So they sent manna, like that's another symbol.
That represented Christ. Yeah. And Christ is the one. He was also the water. When they poured out the drink offering, he said, what? Come unto me, if ye that thirst. He is the water of life. And he told the woman at the well in the 4th chapter there, he said, he met the woman at the well of Samaria, and he asked her to give him a drink. He said, you, a Jew, are asking me, a Samaritan, for a drink of water? I'm unclean. You know, you Jewish people won't touch anything. You won't even come through here most of the time. And he said, if you only knew who I am, you'd ask me to give you water, and I'd give you water. You didn't have to go draw. That's the one in the wilderness, remember. He was the rock that produced it. He was the rock that followed Israel in the wilderness. He was the rock that followed them. And Jehovah is called the rock of what? Of Israel's salvation and the rock of our salvation so many times. Regardless, it's all miracles.
So then he also the Shekinah glory?
What?
The Shekinah glory?
What about the Shekinah glory?
Wasn't he the Shekinah glory?
Yes, he was the Shekinah glory. He is the Shekinah glory. All right. Let's go on a little bit further now. He said, I'll die first, following these uncircumcised. So God split the hollow of the place that is in Lehi, so that the water came out of it, and when he drank, his strength returned, and he revived, and therefore he named the place In Ha-Koreh, which is Lehi to this day. All right? And it says in verse number 20, and he judged Israel 20 years in the days of the Philistines. He was the judge. Now these guys gave him over. They were willing to give him over to the Philistines, and he's their champion. Moses is the judge. He's their champion. He's their Gideon. He is their sister. He Many times, many years in the past, they had been delivered from these Philistines, and here comes another deliverer. They sinned, God judged them, and then God sent a deliverer. All right, same old story over and over again. Chapter number 16, the fifth calls for vengeance. All right, the fifth calls for vengeance. Let's look at this one. All right, sister or brother John.
Now
16
Samson went to
verse 1.
Gaza and saw a harlot there and went into her.
All right, he saw what? What is that?
Harlot.
A harlot. Brother Randall, are you over there? So now Samson went down to Gaza and he saw a harlot there and he went into this harlot. Now here's this man of God now. He's fooling around now with prostitutes. That's the next thing. He's really a pretty wild guy, isn't he? All right. Pretty wild guy. He's a pretty wild judge. Reminds me of Sam Paul, my grandfather. All right.
He's got a bit of televangelist in him.
Huh?
He's got a bit of televangelist in him.
Yeah. All right, number 2, Brother Randall.
When the Gazites were told Samson has come here, they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city. They were quiet all night, saying, "In the morning, when it is daylight, we will kill him."
All right, in the morning when it's daylight, they figured he was going to stay there all night long. That's what they figured. That's what usually happened here with this harlot. And number 3 now, number 3, Dr. Mincy.
And Samson lay till midnight and arose at midnight and took the doors of the gate of the city and the 2 posts and went away with them, bar and all, and put them upon his shoulders and carried them to the top of a hill that is before Hebron.
Oh boy. Now, all these guys are waiting around there to kill him in the morning. Samson, at midnight, he gets up, he goes out there. Now the gates are very strong. Most of these gates are either wooden or whatever. Sometimes they're even made out of stone. Okay? But usually they're wood and they're covered with bronze or brass.
They're real heavy now.
They're real heavy and they have real strong posts. Now what does Samson do out here?
Yeah, carries them like 2 miles out in the field and throws them on a hill.
He goes out there and grabs a hold of the gates and pulls them up out of the ground.
It takes him about 50 miles, it looks like.
Yeah.
Is it 50 miles?
Yeah, about 50 miles, he hauls them off. Can you see that in your...
50 miles.
About 50 miles, he hauls them off.
Here, if I tell you.
Yeah. That's right. He carries them off. Now, he doesn't have any mules. He doesn't have any tractor. He doesn't have a case or a John Deere out there or some type of earth moving machine or something to pull these up. How many of you ever tried to pull a T-post out of the ground?
I have been.
Anybody tried to pull a T-post out of the ground? You know what I'm even talking about, some of you? It is one of these steel posts that they drive in the ground. You ever tried to pull one up? You know the only way to get a steel post out of the ground is to get a rock, put out there, get a great big long pipe, and put chain around that bottom of that T-post and get out here on a lot of lever and pull up. Now that's a little old post this big around. You can't get it out of the ground. Okay? Now Samson, he grabs 2 gigantic pillars, posts. He grabs the gates, probably weigh hundreds of pounds between this stuff. This is the gates to the city, people. Now what if he's Danny DeVito? A little bitty short guy. Well, maybe he's 6 foot tall, maybe.
Maybe he got a stool.
But whatever he did, the Spirit of Jehovah came upon him, and he pulled the things out of the ground. Now, if you go and just try to pull the T-post out of the ground, just see how hard that is to pull. Like I said, you're going to have to get a big, long
You
pipe.
jack them out usually.
Yeah, you can jack them out with a jack, or get a long steel pipe and put a chain on it down there where you got a lot of leverage and pull it out a little at a time. You may have to get 2 or 3. Dr. Minson.
And the interesting thing is he's just got been in with the prostitute and the Spirit of the Lord comes upon him.
He what?
He's just been in with the prostitute, gets out from the prostitute, and the Spirit of the
Yep.
Lord comes upon
The
him.
Spirit of the Lord comes upon him, and nothing is too hard for the Lord.
He was having a prayer meeting. Come on.
So is that like he's coming
Get a
back?
$5
All right.
Like a mark.
So now he goes into this harlot here. They're going to kill him. and he takes the gates of the city and the posts that they hung on and takes them off and carries them about 50 miles. 50 miles on his back, hauling them off. That's strength, people. He slew 1,000 men, the jawbone of a donkey. He tracked all of these jackals and tied them together, burned their cities down. Now he is quite a plague on the Philistines. Talk about plague. He is a plague to these people. All right, number 4. Number 4. Here's the sad story. David Ash. Number 4.
Afterward it happened that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah.
Oh boy, here's Samson and Delilah. The story. You know what? There's been a lot of movies about Samson and Delilah, haven't there?
And Hollywood made a lot of money on
Have
that
any,
one.
have any of you had a Delilah?
Everybody's had a Delilah.
Have any of you guys or women had a Delilah husband or boyfriend? All right, these Delilahs now. All right, Delilah.
Well,
All
Jim,
right.
I got my haircut.
Oh. All right, now you know what Delilah means? Huh?
Something bad.
It means delicate.
Really?
That's what her name means, delicate and
Yeah.
fragile. That's what her name
That one
means.
didn't translate
Delicate
right.
and fragile. Okay, delicate and fragile. That's what her name means now. Verse number 5, Dr. Mincy, are you there?
And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her, and said unto her, Entice him, and see where within his great strength lieth, and by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him, and we will give thee, every one of us, 1,100 pieces of silver.
1,100 pieces of silver. We want to torture him. That's what they said. We want to torture him. It said afflict. The word means to torture. We want to torture him. Verse number 6 now. Verse number 6, Brother Floyd.
6 or 7?
7.
6.
6.
Yep.
Delilah said to Samson, Please tell me whereon your strength lies, and how you might be bound that one could subdue you.
All right. All right. One that could afflict you. One that could torture you. Hey, look at that.
Hey, read the next part.
She just comes straight out and tells him, doesn't she, Brother Brett? What do you think about this girl? You ever met any women like this?
I don't know. She's
Huh?
pretty tricky. I don't know.
Yeah, number 7, Brother Brett.
And Samson said unto her, If they bind me with 7 green withs that were never dried, and I shall be weak as another man.
All right. All right, now let's look at this. Let's see what this is. How many of you ever shot a bow? Anybody shot a bow? Brother David Ash, you shot a bow before?
I shot a bow.
All right, you've shot a bow. You've shot bows, all right. Now, a bow has bow strings on it. Okay? Bow string. Now, some of the strongest bows among the Native Americans were made out of elk horns. Made out of elk horns. They were made out of elk horns. Now, how many of you ever seen an elk run through the forest? And they'll run through trees that are narrower than their horns are. They'll hit those things and they'll throw their head like this, and their horns just fold up because they're not totally they have spring in them, so they'll beat them. Okay, the Indians would take an elk horn and they would cut it off and use it, and they would tie them together, and then they'd have a tremendous bowstring. A bowstring has got to be strong. You can pull a car with a bowstring, one bowstring. Okay, just remember that. Now, they're usually made out of the back strap or the ligaments of the legs or anything of an animal, and it says this is a strong green bowstring, like a bowstring. Very strong. All right, very strong. Now he said, take 7 bowstrings that have not been dried, and I shall become weak like all other men. You have to tie me with 7 bowstrings, 7 bowstrings. Now there was one Indian. His name was Two Stripes, and they used to ride into the buffalo herd. Now buffalo can run pretty fast. I mean, they're a wild animal. Buffalo can really run. But if you get them into a herd and you get on a horse, you can drive up beside them because they can only run so fast. They can't run any faster than the buffalo before them. So they'd ride up there beside, and they would pull their bows, and especially these real strong bows that are made out of elkhorn now, you could pull them back and shoot them, and some of those arrows would go all the way through a buffalo. A man by the name of Two Strike, he was actually from the tribes that I'm from. One time he pulled up beside a big buffalo bull like that. He pulled the bow back. He was using this elkhorn bow and shot an arrow completely through one buffalo and went in and killed another one with a bowstring.
So that's why he calls two strikes?
Yeah, that's why they call him Two Strikes. All right, that's why they call him Two Strikes, because he killed two buffalo with one arrow. Now this is what they bound him with these 7 extremely strong bowstrings. Now, verse number 8. Verse number 8. Brother Art.
The Lord of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh cords that had not been dried, and she bound him with them.
All right, now she takes 7 bowstrings. All right, strong bowstring. And these are the strongest bowstrings. All right, the strongest bowstring. And she ties him with them in verse number 9 now. Verse number 9, Sister Andino.
Now men were lying in wait, staying with her in the road, and she said to him, The Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he broke the bowstrings as the strand of yarn breaks when it touches fire. So the secret of his strength was not known.
All right, so the secret of his strength was not known. Now we're going to have to come back next week now. And we're going to have to see, we just had previews of coming attractions. All
I
right?
want to know what happened to the guys who were in the room with her.
Boy, what a terrible story, isn't it? A story of deceit and deceitfulness. Now, that's not the kind of wife you want, Brother Brett.
I know that.
You do not want a Delilah. This woman is unfaithful in every way, and this guy is really dumb or something.
He's not
Samson
real bright,
may be
is he?
strong, but he sure don't have much above his shoulders, does
Is
he?
that when they got the all bronze, no brains?
Yeah. But you know what? He was a poet, he was a judge, and all this kind of stuff, but when it comes to this matter of women, he wasn't too good. All right, he just wasn't too overly bright. Well, thank you for your attention today. I hope you learned something. Did you learn something from God's Word today? I mean, this is a very simple story, but I wanted to bring out some really neat things from the story too. All right? Brother David. Okay. All right. When we finish this, we'll go on to the video, okay?
So on our prayer list, Brett would like us to pray for the sick people in the world. Jim would like us to pray big praises for an answered prayer on your real estate deal.
That was last Sunday's prayer.
Yeah, And you also got to witness to some of the people in the real estate
No,
process.
the answer
too.
to the prayer was so amazing that the real